I finished replacing the last two old paper caps underneath the chassis and went through and checked the resistors in the IF strip and found a few that were off. Actually both of them were 1K resistors. One was down to 300 ohms and one was up to 1300, so those both got replaced. And then I decided to take the plunge and remove the focus coil. Some other guys on Video Karma assured me that it wouldn't be too hard to put back on, and if I take it off I should get a razor sharp picture on the CRT. Well, I definitely have good focus now. This CRT is what they call self-focusing. It's electrostatic and it does not require any external connections to focus. But the picture's still lousy. I'm hoping that's because of my silly way of injecting the signal. So I hunted around and I dug up some of these guys, which are, well, I don't know what type of connector they call this, but your standard 75 ohm cable type coax connector to RCA. So I can put that on the back of this box and then hook up this RCA directly. Now I don't know what the impedance of this composite video is. It may very well not be 75 ohms, which could also be another issue. Yeah, going with that adapter definitely made a big difference. Occasionally the picture is jittery though. Seems pretty stable right now, but every now and then it loses horizontal sync. Not bad enough that I'm getting jagged lines or anything, or it loses the picture. It just kind of jumps a little bit. Of course it's not going to do it now because I'm talking about it. Also the tuning's very, very, very touchy. Adjusting the fine tuning control. You can see the picture jumped a little bit on the bottom edge. I kind of like that. Now obviously it's happening now because I'm tuning off the station a bit. Alright, using the blended tone modulator I definitely have sound now. But not exactly when it's tuned into a good picture. I got nothing on the screen right now. So I think the audio and the video are way out of whack. I can't really get a good picture either, but I think what I need to do is adjust the carriers on this. They actually have individual adjustments for the audio and video levels, and also the aural carrier. I'm not quite sure what the difference is between the audio level and the carrier, and then you can adjust the output level as well. So I'm going to fiddle with all those controls, see if I get this thing any better. Just wasn't having much luck with the blonder tongue, so I switched to just this little cheapo RF modulator I got off eBay. And it's possible to get a picture and some sound. I got the volume cranked up almost all the way and the picture isn't so hot. So I definitely got to do some work on this set, which I'm really dreading. Because the alignment instructions for this set are quite complex. So why do I say it's complex? Well, here are the instructions. So this diagram shows you where in the circuit things need to be adjusted, and I believe where to inject signals. And then here it shows you what the various waveforms should look like at all dozen steps. And a little table here of the steps, and then a written description. So it's pretty ugly. I'm used to injecting a signal usually just by clipping the RF generator onto the shield over the mixer tube, and then hooking up a VTVM or scope to the detector output, and then adjusting various coils, and then checking the overall response of the sweep generator. This is a bit more complex. Part of which involves modifying some tubes, basically destroying them. So for example, you are supposed to modify 6AU6 and clip off pins 3 and 4, and attach an extension to pin 1 to inject a signal, and then later on you got to modify 6AK5 at the mixer and clip off pin 1 and inject the signal there. So I'd have to destroy 2 tubes to do this alignment, let alone the complexity of going through all these steps. I might also have to make a detector like so, although I do have an RF detection probe with a crystal in it I could probably use. So I'm not thrilled about going through these steps, but I'm going to see if I can get a hold of a copy of the SAMs, because SAM service info, they tend to kind of simplify things and kind of put the alignments for all their sets in the same type of format, the same little table, whereas riders will just duplicate the factory service info, and that's what this is. So for example, for my RCA 630TS, the factory info was several pages long and seemed complex, but when you see it in SAMs, just one condensed page, fairly straightforward. So, Dumont might have gone overkill, and you can leave the tubes unmodified and inject a signal in a different way and do a good enough alignment. Because right now I think things are so far out of whack, I just want to get things a little bit better. I don't have to actually be 100% perfect to make this set work a whole lot better. I managed to get my hands on a copy of the SAM service info, and as I hope, the alignment instructions are less complex. Just condensed to this one 12-step table. Although it does still involve modifying one tube, the 6AK5, but that's only for 2 steps. And that's in the video. For the audio, you don't. That's steps 9 and 10, so that's what I jumped right down to. They use 21.75 megahertz for the audio carrier. So I'm going to set it up for the first step, and I'm supposed to get the response curve looking like that, and then I'll move on to doing the S-curve for the FM discriminator. And it's actually not that far off. Unfortunately, I don't have any sweep generators that will do around 20 megahertz well. It's at the bottom range of what this guy can do, and the same with my other wave tech. These go from around 10 megahertz to 500 megahertz, and the other one goes up to 1 gigahertz. So I got this frequency dialed down about as low as it'll go, and the sweep width is about as low as it will go. They said use a sweep width of 2 megahertz, while the best I can do is about 4.5. And I'm using my modified Syncor for the marker, so I got 21.75 here. These other markers are actually coming from here. I can turn those off, so just got one marker right there, so it's actually not that bad. But we'll see if we can get it any better. Now, if you recall, the sound was pretty bad, and it's out of sync with the video. And when I went through the FM portion, I noticed I could receive stations kind of at 2 points. Turns out the same is true of TV reception. Playing around with this a bit more, when I have my box on channel 4, I can receive it around 3.5 and then again around 2.5, with the lower one being a more stable picture. And I could just faintly make out some sound in between. So the problem might actually lie in the video IF having a much too wide a response rather than the audio. But I'll start out with the audio anyway and then backtrack to the video. So they say to adjust several A17 and A18. I'll have to figure out where those are and get that response peaked. It's off slightly. I suppose I can, even if I can't change the width, reduce the width of the sweep, I can certainly stretch it out of my scope. So, it's right there. Just kick it over a little bit to the right, but perhaps I can get a better response. So in other words, it's peaked to the right frequency, but maybe I can get that peak even better. And then we'll see what the S-curve looks like. This is the audio IF strip through here. Couple 6AU6s and then a 6T8. 6T8 was fairly weak, so I replaced that. I'm injecting the signal right before, or I should say right on the grid of this 6AU6, the first one. And this is the coil I'm going to be peaking. The slug both in the top and the bottom. So here's my response. I decreased the vertical a bit from the last segment. So yeah, that's why I cut down the height of the signal, because I'd already tweaked this a little bit before I started recording, because I knew it was off. So that is more like it. And so you can go quite a bit higher, but now it's off frequency, so I'm curious to see what effect it will have when I tweak the bottom of the coil. For that, I gotta figure out it's down in here. Yeah, nice. I think I just about doubled the gain of that stage, so I think that's going to help out the audio situation, no doubt. Here's what I got for the output of the discriminator. Now, it should be a nice S-curve, symmetrical about this point, so it should be just as high, as much down here as there is up here with the same overall shape. And it just won't do it. So let's see, could there be something else up? No, there are a couple caps inside there with unmarked values, unfortunately. I have tried swapping out this tube with a few other 6T8s, made no difference. So I'm not sure. I mean, it seems to me that this needs to be symmetrical, so if it's not symmetrical, one of those caps being off could definitely do it. I've checked the resistors, they're within spec. I guess I'll check the voltages though before I do anything as drastic as try removing that can. Because even if I get the can out, I don't know what those capacitor values are supposed to be. I can guesstimate, but I'd rather not monkey with that if I don't have to. That is much better. I think somebody had just aligned the two slugs in that transformer totally wrong. What I ended up doing is, by just tweaking them slightly one way or the other, I was just not getting at all what I wanted. So I just backed one of the cores way off and then drove the other one in further and found another sweet spot where I could get the right response curve. So that's curious. I've encountered that before, where there are, it's possible to find multiple points on a transformer when you've got two slugs where you sort of get the right response. Because you got one at each end, so you can have them like both kind of close to the middle, or both over towards one end, or both over towards the other end. So if you're having trouble, it's worthwhile to just kind of back them both out all the way and just kind of start over and bring one towards this slug, or back that one all the way out and bring the other one towards this, or bring them both towards the middle. So I'm hoping this is going to have a big impact and get rid of that double hump response. Before I dive into doing the video F alignment, I wanted to power the setup with all the tubes back in to see if aligning the audio helped any. Specifically, I want to see if I got rid of the double response in the FM radio band. So let's see. Nope. Very close together, but there's a null, or kind of a dead spot in between. So it's there, fades out a little, and it comes back in. But I think they're closer together than they used to be. Well, maybe aligning the video IF will help a little, because here's where the sound is picked off. Through a little itty bitty capacitor over to here. So maybe adjusting the coils here and in the tuner will help with that audio. Don't know, but I think it's improving. I think I found a problem in this video IF. I'm at step 4, and this is the response curve I should have. So, plateau with two peaks, one at about 22.75 and the other at 25.5. This is what I've got. That peak is around 20 megahertz. 19 and a half, let's say. And that's obviously not right. If we go up to 22.75, that's way down here. And 25.5 is going to be, or 25.50 is, right about there. So the response should be flat, and it should be peaked and then go down. So this is way off. Now, I hope that doesn't mean this core could be damaged, or this coil rather, or one of these cores in the coil. And something else that's odd is there's a little bit of wire coming out of this coil, this transformer on the bottom here. A little bit of wire comes out here, and then it goes into a hole back inside the coil. Now this has something similar, but it's been cut. I don't see anything on the schematic about that. I don't know what that's all about. I don't think this has been replaced, so I don't really know what's going on here, but I'll try adjusting it and see what happens. But for sure, that ain't right, and that could be causing some serious issues, or could be the cause of the weird issues I've been seeing with the tuning. I took a break from working on the alignment to take a look at the rider service info, and what do you know, there is some discussion of these IF transformers and that little wire. So what I ended up doing is, on the first IF transformer where I encountered that wire and the response was really horribly off, I tried it both with that bit of wire in and out, and I ended up putting it back in, which is how it was originally, and I was able to get the response fairly close to what they were asking for. It just took a lot of twiddling with the cores. Now the next one over from that wire had been clipped off. There's a little stub there, and the response on that one was terrible. And I could not get any better by adjusting these slugs, so I tacked on a new little bit of wire and put it down into that ceramic tube, and if anything, it made things worse. Well, what might be the situation is what they describe here. Inside these transformers, there are not any mica caps, but there is one ceramic cap, a very small valued one. And it's made by silver plating a ceramic tube, and they say that can arc over and fail. So they go on to say that you don't have to replace a transformer. You can clip this wire and attach a 1.5 microfarad or picofarad cap between these two terminals. So I think I should give that a try. If it doesn't work, I think I'll go ahead and remove that transformer and take a closer look inside. And 1.5 picofarads is awfully small. I'll check my stash and see if I've got any. If not, I suppose I'll order up a few. They say to use 1.5 picofarad 400 volt type GA3 stack pole capacitor equivalent. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure a silver mica 500 volt modern capacitor would work just fine. Here are those two IF transformers on the schematic. So this must be that capacitor. Well, I went through my stash of mica caps, and 2 was the closest I could find. So that might be enough at least to experiment with. So right now I'm looking at this guy. And that's what I've got for a response curve. And it's supposed to look like figure 6. So there's supposed to be a bit of a notch, so that a trough right there, that is correct. But after that trough, we should have a nice wide plateau. So it should a little dip and then across. Now I've got the marker 25.5, so that's the right side of the plateau. The other side should be 22.75, 22.75, which is here. So this should be way up here. So it should be like. And this is after me fiddling with it for quite a while. That's the best I could do. Before I started, it was even worse than that. So I'm going to try tacking in that 2 picofarad cap and see what kind of difference it makes. Well, this is the best I'm able to get. This part's okay, although it should be a little bit wider to the left. And this should be smaller amplitude, but it's a lot better than it was. And I'm hoping that when I get the right value capacitor in there, it will look better. But I just feel a whole lot better that I think I figured out what the issue was and a way to resolve it. I was getting very frustrated with this set. So I'm going to continue on a few more steps to go to complete the alignment, and let's see how the set performs. Now I've come to the point where I'm going to have to modify a tube. It's a dummy mixer tube, so to clip off pin 1 of a 6AK5 and inject the signal in a little stub that's left. So, let's see, that would be this pin. Luckily 6AK5s are not exactly the rarest tube. In fact, I think this is the first that I've ever encountered that actually uses them, so I've probably got a couple dozen spares. This is not the one that came with this, which is a nice RCA. This is just a no-name one I found in my stash of used tubes. So I'm going to clip that off, tack on a little wire, and use that to inject my signal. And that is a tube that goes on the induct tuner part, and that will allow me to tweak this coil. And I think this little guy too. I was reading up on this too. This is a later modification as an alternate way to pick off the signal from the induct tuner. I guess that's not how they did it originally.
Where did he go? Up in the sky, way up high. No one knows. Check your chimney, check your roof. He might have fallen with a mighty oof. Where is Balloon Boy? Floating in the air. He's the mystery of the day, but tomorrow we won't care.
Alright, I think that will do the trick. Let's give it a try.
Thanks for not watching me, Mom and Dad.
Here's how I've got it hooked up. And if you're wondering what that little resistor is there between the alligator clips, that's a 75 ohm terminating resistor. That's the impedance of the output of this generator. And here's a response curve, so I guess it's working. It's not exactly what it's supposed to look like, but at least the signal was getting injected and going through the set. I finished the alignment as best I could. The response for some of the IF stages wasn't quite what it should be. In particular, these rather complex ones on 6 and 7. And those are the ones associated with those two IF cans that have that funky issue with the capacitor. So one of them, I'm still using the original ceramic tube with the wire inserted in the middle, and the other one I tacked in that 2 picofarad mica cap. Turns out that 1.5 picofarad caps are a little bit harder to get than I expected. DigiKey, the only one that they stock is surface mount. I don't want to mess with that. Plus, I don't think it has a high enough voltage. It's supposed to be rated for 400 volts or higher. Mauser, the only one they have, is ceramic. The mica ones are on back order, and the only one they have in ceramic that's rated for 400 volts or better is about $1.78 each. So for the time being, I'm just going to have to knuckle down and spend About $3.50 for two little rinky-dink capacitors. Anyways, so let's see what we can get. Oh, well, a couple other things of note. There are two traps that are supposed to block the sound carrier from an adjacent channel from bleeding through. One is a top slug in here, and one is a slug in here. This one, it works the way it's supposed to. It's an absorption type trap. It's just an inductor and a capacitor connected in parallel. It just resonates at that frequency and just sucks it up. This one does nothing. So I suspect there's maybe a bad mica cap in here, but not exactly the easiest thing to get at. The other thing I notice is that there are two tunable slugs. One there and one there. No mention of them anywhere in either the Riders or the Sams. All I have to say about this tuner is that it's adjusted at the factory and you don't need to mess with it. However, I have no idea if somebody else didn't mess with these in the past, so, or if there's any other problems inside. Well, they do show a diagram here of the inside of that tuner, so it is possible to get it open somehow. Now, I took this off, and it just exposed on the metal plate below, but I noticed that there are some little screws around the perimeter. So maybe I need to take this off, and then there's a few screws I can take off and then finally get inside there. So if I still have issues, I think I may just have to buckle down and open the thing up. At the very least, if I still have issues, what I can do is take an alignment tool and just give a slight tweak to those coils one way or the other way, make note of what the original position was to see if it makes any improvement. Alright, the alignment said to put it on channel 7, so that's where I still got it set. Back off. Alright, so let's see what the FM radio is like. If you recall, I was tuning it at 2 different points for each station. Yep, still have the same problem. Tunes in there, and then again over here. Nuts. Now, I thought that doing a good IF alignment would solve that issue. And the sound IF looks really good, really solid now. So I'm not quite sure how it's possible you could tune it in at 2 different points unless there's something funky with the local oscillator. I don't know. Anyways, let's see what TVs are like. Damn, same problem with the TV. Pretty good reception though, considering I don't have any antenna. I got my shielded cable going straight into the converter box. So this is just a little bit of signal leaking in from somewhere. Well, as far as the impedance of that goes, it's actually 72 ohm impedance. Not sure how Dumont came up with that, but that's what they use. Now there is a control on here for AGC, and there is a procedure to adjust that. For the alignment, they said to make it fully counterclockwise, and that's how I still have it set. I was playing around with it before, and I noticed it really doesn't do much of anything. The adjustment instructions say something along the lines of adjust until the screen goes blank and then back off till it gets brighter again. Well, this is doing almost nothing. And when I first got this set, it was cranked all the way fully clockwise, so that's something worth checking out. That control might not even be functioning. So here, same deal when I'm tuning it. Sound, keep turning, fades a little, and then comes back a bit stronger. It's curious though, as the tuning eye only has one distinct strong spot, which is right in between the two audio peaks. So, interesting. Now let's see about that converter box. Got it set to channel 4. So, same issue like before. It's not tuning in on 4 at all. It starts coming in as I hit channel 3. Crank the sound up. Yeah, we got sound now. It's not great, but it had no sound before. And what I've seen on other sets is that if I get mediocre sound with this converter box, I get awesome sound with other signal sources. So that's a really good sign. Picture's pretty damn good too. A little jittery though. I'm tweaking the brightness and the contrast. Occasionally the brightness is kind of going in and out. That has something to do with that AGC control. Let's see, I'm gonna adjust that again. Oh, there's also a local distance switch on the back. Okay, oh, now the AGC control's having a huge effect. Interesting. Yeah, you know what it could be is that channel 6 has got to be an incredibly weak signal because I don't have an external antenna hooked up. So maybe the AGC bus, internally was all the way maxed out, trying to pick in that weak signal. But now this is a really strong signal. So the AGC control is doing more. So I think they said to adjust it so it blanks out and then adjust it so it starts getting brighter again. Something weird about there. That is a pretty damn good picture, other than the jitteries, the brightness flickering around. Now, what about this tuning? Something goofy. So the tuning indicator says that this is the best position, I believe, for the station. But we got nothing. Also getting the double hump sound on this. Well, I get the best sound and picture around here. That's not where the eye's saying it should be. But if I keep tuning, we get here and I get this horrible buzz. It's some kind of crap on the screen. And it's that station again. Coming through way over on the dial. And the eye just really goes over hard. It deflects more than I've ever seen for any signal source. Now I'm going to try putting this box on channel 3. When I did that before, I just couldn't pick it up at all. And same deal again, I cannot pick up channel 3. Actually, I can get kind of a ghost of it, kind of between 3 and 4. Again, that strong buzz, the eyes really deflected over. Well, it's kind of coming. You know what? All this time, maybe I've had this backwards. I'm always looking at the back of the box. Let's see, 3 or 4. Alright, this is 4. Okay. So all this time, I had things backwards. Now that being said, 4 is not coming in very well. Not as good as 3 did. Just barely get any sound. And on the dial, it's just on the fringe of the 4 box. Unlike my other sets, there's no individual channel tuning slug or anything to mess with, so I mean, it is what it is. Well, as far as channels tuning in twice, well, I mean, I'm sure the owner of the set will be happy if they somewhere on the dial get a stable picture and sound, so it's not the end of the world. Put this back under 3. Seems to come in better. Now there is a procedure to adjust the horizontal oscillator locking coil that I haven't gone through yet. That might help with the jittery nature. Now as for this eye tube, according to the owner's manual and other guys who have a Dumont, 1 bar stays at 3/4 height all the time, fixed. And when you've got a station strongly tuned in, both bars should be at the same height as they are now. Also, this may seem odd, but it's the bottom edges that move up and down. It's not the other way around. There was an interesting discussion about that recently on the Antique Radio Forum where most guys who had worked on these sets, owned them, restored them, had it the other way around, which was more intuitive, that the bottoms is where the glow starts and they move up, but this is the way it's supposed to be. But what's weird in my set is that I have the opposite action. When I have nothing tuned in, just static, that's when the bars are equal. When I have a station tuned in well, the bar shrinks up. That is the exact opposite of what everybody else is describing for the correct operation of this tuning eye. So I don't know what's going on there. I've checked the resistors associated with this. They seem to be okay. There is one inside the base, should be 3.3K. Mine has drifted up a little to 4.3K, but I can't imagine that would invert the operation of the eye tube. I suppose another possibility is I could trace out this wiring, and maybe it was a later revision, or maybe a service tech reversed the wiring, because to them it made more sense that when you got it tuned in, the bar should be unequal. I don't know. I posted a comment that I was having trouble with some horizontal jitters on this Dumont, and Phil Nelson quickly chimed in that he had exactly the same problem, and he had narrowed it down to 1 microcapacitor, and when he replaced it, took care of his problem, so I figured might as well check mine. So that is this guy right here, the 180 microfarad cap. Now that couples the incoming sync signal to the horizontal sawtooth generator, so it makes sense that if that capacitor's got a problem, you're probably not going to be syncing too well. So I unsoldered one end of it to isolate it, and I hooked it up to my solar capacitor analyzer, and when I tried checking the capacitance, it should be right about here. It's 180, so there's 200 on the dial, so it should be about here. There's a slight reaction at around 220, but not much of anything. That eye should go full open when you hit the capacitance, so Figured I'd check for shorts next. And, oh yeah, that's leaky. It's even leaky at the lowest range. So that has got to go. I don't have any 180s on hand, but I do have a 200, which is probably close enough. It's just a coupling capacitor. And I figure it's better to be off a little bit in capacitance and not leaky. Oh, and when I place my order, which I'll probably do later tonight, for some other parts to finish off this set, I'll tack on a 180 picofarad cap. So I'll tack this one in place, see if it solves that issue. And that got me thinking, well, if we got one bad mica cap, we may have more. Just like in that RCA 630 TS I did a few months ago, where I ended up shotgunning all the mica caps. Because still have lingering alignment issues with the audio. So got 1, 2, 3, 4 mica caps in the audio, and 1, 2, 3, 4 in the video IF. So I figure I'll spot check a few, and if I see any other issues, I might as well order those up, because if I find a problem later and I don't have a replacement on hand, I'm going to kick myself, so I'll have to place yet another order. Alright, I replaced that mica cap, got the set fired back up. Now let's see how well it locks in and how stable it is. Yeah, it looks pretty solid. Locked in quickly. Let's see if there's any jittering. Oh yeah. Tonight is the first night for Friday Night with Sid and Marty Krofft on MeTV. HR Puffin Stuff, followed by Land of the Lost. Gonna try some other stations, see if that lock stays good.
Mary, she called Harry to change her dental appointment. Judge, listen, she's all alone. She just moved down here. You're the only family she's got left right now, so give her a chance. Yeah, well, Harry had the right idea. He died.
Yeah, I think replacing that cap really did the trick. And it sure seems like I could leave that 200 in there, and it would work just fine.
Wow, that was horrible. Pays you cash when you're sick or hurt.
Alright, so like I said, I'm going to check a few other mica caps, put together my order, place my order, get this off the workbench, and get my Philco up here.